Well, I'm a bit excited. One of my favourite topics is disclosure, UFOs, aliens. One of my many topics, but this is one of my favourites. And we've just had the Pentagon release 119 declassified UAP documents on their war.gov/UFO website. So I'm going to do a reading on that today. I think one of the reading that I was going to be looking at was, I've been looking at the scientists individually, but I wanted to see if there's something coming, maybe disclosure. That was the exact thing I was thinking of. Maybe disclosures coming. This is what's been going on in my head in the last month or so. But they wanted to get control of the way that disclosure is presented to us. And one of those ways would have to be take control over whistleblowers and making sure that information's not coming out. So that's kind of what's been in my head lately with this information. So I've been thinking about, while I'm working on individual scientists, do a kind of a group reading as far as, is this why we're seeing some, not all, some of those missing scientists or past scientists to get control of the way that the disclosure is handled. So that's my first question, and then we'll get further into this topic of this disclosure. Full disclosure, partial disclosure, let's wait and see. Now the deck that I'm using today is my full disclosure deck. It's my fun little deck, which is all those UFO cards. So let's get stuck into this reading and see what the cards want to reveal. So first of all, I am going to ask that first question connected to the missing scientists that we're seeing, and we're now at 14. We were at 11. We've had David Wilcock, which you've seen the reading on that one. That's on my channel if you haven't seen it. Then we saw two other ones when I was doing the Amy Eskridge reading. That morning, I heard there was another two that passed away in a plane accident, another two scientists. So there's something going on, like, it doesn't seem normal to me. And that's what I've been thinking. Are they trying to cover up? Are they trying to prevent information from coming out? But then the Pentagon goes and releases the documents that it feels that we're ready to hear or that it wants to release to us. So my question here is, those scientists, some, not all, some, I don't want to, it's not all of them, it's partially some of them, or if any, let's phrase it that way, are any of the scientists that are missing or passed away done intentionally to get control of the narrative when it comes to disclosure, UAP disclosure? Let's see what the cards want to say. Okay, this card's really interesting because it comes out quite a lot, this disarmed warheads. It comes out every time I ask this question or anything about it. This card comes out every time. And what it reminds me of is back decades ago when some war was escalating and there was aircraft sighting or UAP sightings, and then the warheads on the base in the silo, I think it was, were disarmed. They were disarmed. So I can't remember if there was more than one incident and whether they were turned on or turned off, but I know that there has been warheads disarmed before major conflict was breaking out, after UFO back then, or UAP sighting. So interesting. Returning. Now this is interesting because a couple of different things I'm picking up here. Returning because we are facing very similar things that what we saw decades ago. Actually, should pull up the information for that. So I was hearing Rendlesham Forest. So I want to talk a little bit about that because that's what I was picking up. But I want to tell you about since the disarmed warheads keeps coming out every time I ask this question. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of factual information here. So the key case was in 1967 at Maelstrom, AFB missile shut down in Montana, USA. 10 nuclear missiles reportedly went offline within seconds while a UFO hovered over the launch facility. Then in 1964, we had the Vandenberg missile test in California. During a test launch, a saucer-shaped object reportedly approached the missile and fired beams of light at the warhead. causing it to tumble out of the sky. That's another event. So I knew there was more than one. And I'll get to why this is so important given the cards that's on the table. 1982, the Soviet nuclear base incident. Whistleblower testimony presented to the US Congress describes a UAP hovering over a Soviet missile site, after which several missiles entered launch mode without authorization. Now, I knew there was, I was picking up there was one, and I knew from memory there was one where they turned them on, but I knew most of them they had turned them off. It was the Soviet nuclear base incident. So I'm glad that I looked it up to get the factual information here. Several missiles entered launch mode without authorization, then returned to normal only after the object departed. So really interesting. Now, I was hearing Rendlesham Forest as I was pulling those cards, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. Okay, the incident took place in Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk, England. So right around the world this happens, not just America. Between the US-operated bases, RAF Woodbridge and RAF Brentwaters. It unfolded over 2 main nights. On the first night, the USAF security personnel saw strange lights descending into the forest. Sergeant Jim Peniston later claimed he approached and touched the structured craft, though this was not in the original reports and has no corroboration from other witnesses. On the second night, which is the 28th of December 1980, this is the night involving Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, the deputy base commander, and the reason why the case became so famous is because of his high ranking. Holt led a team into the forest with a radiation detector, audio recorder, and multiple personnel. They reported pulsing red lights moving through the trees, triangular craft emitting beams of light, elevated radiation readings at the landing site. Holt wrote an official memo in the UK to the UK Ministry of Defence documenting the event, which later leaked and cemented the case's notoriety. So I'm going to continue on with the reading, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of facts about what the cards are wanting to talk about today. Now, whether we may see this in some more information about this coming out in the declassified documents. So maybe that's why they're wanting to talk about it, and they've been wanting to talk about this in the last few weeks that I've been reading this. What's interesting is that these things happen around bases with weaponry. Some of them around when there is battles going on, warlike energy heating up. The UFOs come in to shut the missiles down or to let them know who's really in control. Why I say that's important is because we've got this thing going on right now with Iran, Israel, and America, or the US, battles. Could they be returning, or had they returned? Interesting. Also, this is bringing me back to the Chris Bledsoe prophecy, which you can see the reading I done on that on this channel. Said that when Israel and Iran start exchanging missiles, we would start to see something. It's saying they're returning, because of the battles that is happening right now. And they're wanting to talk about disarming warheads. So I'm just going to ask the cards just to complete the story that they were telling before I thought I better get some facts. Okay, so we're seeing strategy on the table. So maybe this disclosure is part of a strategy by the elites. It says elites evacuating. Okay, if I was to read this in the most woo-woo kind of way, I would say something is returning, possible because of missiles, the active missiles lately, the battles that has been going on, has sparked interest of UAPs. Elites are evacuating or making strategies. Now, I'm pretty sure I've seen that elites evacuating. But it tells us every time, because I ask every time, are the people safe? And it tells us every time the people are safe. So don't panic. The cards tell me every time the people will be safe. These are manned craft. Okay, what do you want to tell me about the connection between the scientists and the beginning of the disclosure that we're starting to see happen with the release of these 119 unclassified documents? What is the connection here? Is there a connection? Okay, these are kind of interesting because according to the cards, they're saying that the release of these current documents and the connections to some or partial missing scientists, or those 14 scientists, is because what they're telling us could be different to what those scientists know. And that information, what they are telling us, what the officials are telling us, would be compromised by the people in the know. This is what they're saying. So it's a retaliation, or it's retaliation, but it's not. It's more like it's not like tit for tat or anything like that kind of retaliation. It's more like to where whistleblowers have come out and said certain things, then they've got to come out and say, well, we need to clean up this narrative because we're about to release what we think the public needs to hear, or what we think the public is capable of hearing. And we don't want to dilute the information that we're putting out, or we want to be the place where people get their information from. So that's what I'm picking up is the connection here. So they're not telling us everything. They don't want whistleblowers or scientists to tell us anything. So that's why, or compromise the information that from the official channels. They don't want scientists or whistleblowers to compromise the information coming from official channels. So they're having to, it's not retaliate, that's not the right word, but that's the only card I've got in the deck that comes close. It is more like getting ahead of it, avoiding whistleblowers coming out with any kind of information. This is the slow card, the slow down card. It doesn't belong in this deck. It comes from a different deck because it's got the green on the back. It just says slow down. So to me, that means slow release. Slow release. So let's get into what is the narrative coming from the official releases. Show me the narrative, but then I'm going to ask for the narrative about what is being held back, what they don't want coming out. So first of all, and there's some great cards in this deck, but first of all, we're going to ask, what is the projected narrative that from the official pages, or the official narrative that's been sold to us? The first card that came out was covering up. So there's certain things they want to keep hidden, covered over. So they're talking about past events. It says part of the plan on the back. So I'm just going to leave that one to the side. So we've got electronic warfare on one side, and we've got part of a plan. So we'll leave part of the plan sitting here. And they're talking about past events, because they need to be talking about something. I am going to ask what it is that they're not telling us, or what is different from the official narrative, what they're keeping hidden or don't want us to know. So they want us to see the official narrative. They're talking about past events. There's still things they're covering up. Very interesting that we have elites evacuating and evacuating, just to make sure I get the message. So something is being covered up. I just had a quick little thought about why pastors were being called in. But every time I ask, are the people are the people going to be okay? It says that people are safe. It says every time. So it's not fear-based. But I'm wondering if there's something coming. Okay, so when you have like a lot of stuff on the internet and you want to cover up things that are either real or current, or they don't want us to see, they will fill the internet with other stuff, so when we try to search that, we can't get to it. Could it be things that some of those scientists have talked about? Could it be connected to mothership craft? Is it connected to last year when we were Amua and we're seeing different things coming into our inner solar system from outside of our solar system? Behaving very strangely, and how quickly we've forgotten that. So it's like the elites are preparing. Now it tells me evacuating on the cards, but I'm feeling it's more like preparing in a way that gives them the upper hand, in a way that gives them control of the narrative. So talk about past stuff that's happened, release some documents, release some files, pollute the internet with all things UAP. So when we go looking for truth, you can't find it unless you dig deep. Interesting. So tell me, and I almost get nervous asking with these cards because you just don't know what's coming out of these cards. Tell me what's really going on. If they're sending us in a direction on what they want us to see, what is really going on? So I needed to pull an extra card to get to the top of the pyramid, and the card that I just happened to fall out was the Pentagon. Pentagon at the top of the pyramid, exposing information. But what they're exposing with the declassified documents is only enough where they can maintain control. It is only partial disclosure. Now they're watching something, or something's watching us, reconnaissance, keeping an eye on something, or something's keeping an eye on us. We've got Project Bluebeam on the table. So something to use discernment about when it comes to sightings. Interesting. Project Bluebeam, pastors being called in. Because if people were about to see something, a lot of people would be hitting the churches. So pastors would have to be prepared. Mass panic, sitting with Bluebeam. To promote fear. And you saw me shuffle these cards. But it's all just a distraction to neutralize the real enemy. So what is being compromised? Is it the original plan? Is it fear of real information coming out? Hence the scientists and whistleblowers. Can you see anything else here in this spread? Connecting the scientists, connecting the release of the documents, the partial disclosure. The partial disclosure that exposes only certain information, enough for them to be in control of the narrative, Perhaps it's at a time when they're wanting everybody talking about this stuff. Would be the perfect moment for a certain project that causes mass panic and promotes fear. Don't be distracted. This is just a way of neutralizing the enemy. And who's the enemy? Who's considered the enemy? Who do you think is considered the enemy? Interesting. I love this topic. I hope you enjoyed that reading. If you have any questions that you want me to ask in a pyramid spread or with my full disclosure cards, please do let me know in the comments.